哈利路亚！各位弟兄姐妹以及在线上的同龄，大家晚安。
Good evening to all our brothers and sisters who are either attending in person or attending
感谢
online.
主耶稣的恩典，在今天晚上有机会在这里和大家一同来聚会敬拜神。
Thank God I have the opportunity to worship the Lord with all of you.
也愿主耶稣的恩惠平安能够时常与我们大家同在。
May the grace and peace be with all the brothers and sisters.
在今天晚上，我们用撒母耳记下的第15章来做彼此学习的内容。
And tonight we will be studying 2 Samuel chapter 15 as mutual encouragement.
我们请翻到撒母耳记下的第15章。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 15.
撒母耳记下第15章的第10节。
2 Samuel chapter 15 verse 10.
第10节。
Verse 10.
押沙龙打发探子走遍以色列各支派，说：你们一听见脚声，就说押沙龙在希伯伦作王了。第11节。
Verse 11.
押沙龙在耶路撒冷请了200人与他同去，都是诚诚实实去的，并不知道其中的真情。第12节。
Verse 12.
押沙龙献祭的时候，打发人去将大卫的谋士基罗人亚希多弗从他本城请了来。于是叛逆的事派甚大，因为随从押沙龙的人民日渐增多。在撒母耳记下15章所记载的是押沙龙叛变。
So here in 2 Samuel, it records Absalom's treason.
押沙龙是大卫的儿子，是他最喜欢的一个孩子。
And so Absalom is King David's son and one of his favorite sons.
但是在第15章这里记载这个押沙龙要杀了他的父亲，要抢夺以色列的王权。
But here we see that Absalom wanted to kill his own father so he could take the crown.
撒母耳记下基本上就是讲到大卫的生平。
And so the entirety of 2 Samuel mostly talks about the life of David.
基本上我们可以把撒母耳记下分成3个段落。
And we can split 2 Samuel into 3 different sections.
第一个段落讲到单纯的大卫靠着神成为以色列的君王，成为一个强大国度的领导者。
And we can see the first section is this innocent David who has this innocent faith in God and is able to lead the Israelites to draw closer to God.
第二段讲到是在他的强盛、富足、丰裕当中，却失去了警醒，来犯罪得罪神。
But here we see that in the second section, King David, he ends up gaining so much power that he has let go of his faith a little bit and has sinned
在第
greatly.
3段则是讲到他得罪神、犯罪之后，刀剑不离开他家，人生成为混乱以及许多的悲哀跟眼泪。
And then the third section, it depicts King David's life and that the knife and shall not depart from his household and that there is much chaos within the
我们
nation.
看到大卫的长子强暴了他同父异母的妹妹。
And then we see that before his own son had assaulted his own sister.
我们看到大卫的儿子举刀杀死了自己的哥哥。
And we see that his brother, his son had killed his
我们更
brother.
看到押沙龙举兵叛乱，要杀掉自己的父亲。
And now we can see Absalom has now wanting to kill his own father.
原本神所爱、原本神所赐福的大卫，
This person that was beloved by the people and beloved by God,
却在失去警醒之后犯罪得罪神，而让他的家庭成为一团的混乱。
because of his carelessness and because of his own sin, he had caused all of this chaos within his own family.
那第15章这里就讲到了他所爱的儿子押沙龙要叛变，要杀他。
And right here in 2 Samuel chapter 15 depicts Absalom's and King David's beloved Absalom wanting to kill him.
在这一场的谋反叛变当中，圣经里记载了好几个不一样的人物。
And within Absalom's treason, the Bible describes many people.
而在这几个人物当中，他们都有一些值得今天你我去思考、去作为警告或者是提醒的内容。
And all of these people is something we can take something from all of them as warning or for our encouragement.
那我们请翻到撒母耳记下15章的第1节。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 15 verse 1.
撒母耳记下15章第1节。
2 Samuel chapter 15 verse 1.
此后，押沙龙为自己预备车马，派50个人在他前头奔走。押沙龙常早晨起来，站在城门的道旁。凡有争讼要去给王判断，押沙龙就叫他过来，问他说：“你是哪一城的人？”回答说：“仆人是以色列某支派的人。”第3节。
Verse 3.
押沙龙对他说：“你的事有情有理，无奈王没有委人听你申诉。”押沙龙说：“恨不得我做国中的士师，凡有争讼求审判的，到我这里来，我必秉公审判。”判断。第5节。
Verse 5.
若有人近前来拜押沙龙，押沙龙就伸手拉住他，与他亲嘴。第6节。
Verse 6.
以色列人中，凡去见王求判断的，押沙龙都是如此待他们。这样，押沙龙暗中得了以色列人的心。我们刚讲到押沙龙杀了大卫的长子。
And so before we see here recorded Absalom killed the firstborn son of David.
在杀了自己的哥哥之后，他逃亡，后来父亲怜悯他，让他回来。
And after Absalom had killed his own brother, he had fled, and then his father had forgiven him, and he was allowed
押沙
to
龙所
return.
做的是一件非常恶劣的事，谋杀了自己的哥哥。
And the thing that Absalom did was very cold-blooded, in that he killed his own brother.
但是大卫对他有怜悯，让他重新回到身边。
But it was only because his own father had mercy on him and forgave him that he's able to return.
但是我们所看到的是，在这种怜悯，在这种对他的慈爱的事上，押沙龙并没有感谢他的父亲。
But then you can see that Absalom was not thankful to his father, despite how much forgiveness his father had to give
他
him.
没有珍惜父亲对他的赦免，他也没有看到父亲在他身上所施的慈爱。
He did not feel the love that David had for him, or he did not feel the amount of forgiveness
我
that
们
David
看
gave.
到的是，当他回到父亲身边，就开始想办法要设计，要夺取这个国家。
And instead of feeling thankful for his own father, he was already making plans on how he can steal the crown from his father.
所以他常常在城门口来收拢人心，告诉大家说：“我比我父亲更优秀，更关心你们，我会是一个更好的君王。”
And so Absalom would rise early and stand by the gate to win over the men, to say that he is better than his father and he's more capable than his father as
而
king.
也照着他的计划，按着他的安排，圣经里说，他真的收拢了人的心呐。
And then by his own plan, the Bible actually records that Absalom stole all the hearts of the men of Israel.
所以在这里我们看到一个怎么样的押沙龙？
So we can see what kind of person Absalom is.
押沙龙利用他父亲对他的包容跟怜悯。
Absalom had taken advantage of his father's forgiveness and love.
这里讲到说，他有50个人在他前面奔跑。
He had 50 people before him.
这个是国王出巡的架势，但是他用在自己身上。
And this was something that the kingdom had bestowed upon him, but this is something that he had taken advantage for
难
himself.
道大卫不知道吗？精明的大卫怎么可能不知道？
And how you might think, how is David not able to know about Absalom's plan? But of course,
但
David
是
knew.
大卫对他有特别的慈爱，大卫特别喜欢他，特别疼爱他，特别的对他包容。
But we can see that David especially liked Absalom, and he was able to forgive him in all things.
但是在这里，押沙龙利用了大卫对他的特别的慈爱，反而把他用来对付自己的父亲。
But we can see that Absalom had taken advantage of David's love for him, and he had used it against him.
然后押沙龙对这些百姓所说的话。
And then we can see what Absalom specifically tells the people of Israel.
巴不得我做士师，巴不得我来关心你，我一定为你秉公行义，我一定站在你这一边。
He said, "Oh, if I were made a judge in the land, I would give everybody justice."
我们有没有发现一件事情？
Have you realized
这
something?
里讲说，凡来求王判断的人，押沙龙都是这样对他们。
And you can see that he acted towards all those who came to the king for judgment.
每一个来求王做判断，要王帮他审判的人，押沙龙都说：“你有情有理，你是对的。我如果是王，我一定站在你这边。”
You can see that Absalom would act as if that all of the people who came to the king for judgment were right, and that he would support them.
有可能每一个来找王的都是对的吗？
Is it that every person that came to the king for judgment, is
有
it
可
that they're
能每
right?
一个人都是有情有理，都是受害者吗？
Are all of these people victims, and all of them are they full of reason?
一个判断一定是有人是正方，有人是反方，有人是加害者，有人才是受害者啊。
And if someone were to come to the king for judgment, that means one person is a victim, one person is the one that enacted this
所以我
injustice.
们在这里看到的是，押沙龙所说的只是人家喜欢听的好话。
We can see here then that Absalom, of course, would say things that are pleasing to what people want to hear.
我是你这一边的，如果我做王，我一定帮你，我一定跟你，我们是同一国的，这个意思啦。
He said, we are in the same nation now. I know that you are always right, and I will always support you.
所讲的都是人想听的，但是公义在哪里？正直在哪里？合情合理在哪里？对不起，这个不是押沙龙在意的事情。
And of course, Absalom wanted to say all these things so they can win the heart of men. But where is the logic here? Where is the reason here? Or where's the justice here?
所以押沙龙是利用百姓的无知来完成自己得到好处。
And of course, so Absalom is taking advantage of the people's ignorance, and so he can win over the hearts of men.
讲的都非常好听，但是实际上他在乎这些百姓吗？他在乎谁对谁错吗？他是不在乎的。
Of course, Absalom will say that all these people have reason, but of course he does not care about these people.
所以我们看到押沙龙利用父亲的慈爱，利用百姓的无知。
And so here, then we can see that Absalom had taken advantage of his own father's love, and that he also took advantage of the people's ignorance.
我们看回来第15章的第7节。
Let's look at chapter 15, verse 7.
第7节。
Verse 7.
满了40年，押沙龙对王说：“求你容我往希伯伦去，还我向神所许的愿。”第8节。
Verse 8.
因为仆人住在亚兰的基述，曾许愿说：“神若使我再回耶路撒冷，我必侍奉他。”在这里这个押沙龙准备好了，要起兵叛变。
So right here, we can see that Absalom had he's starting to enact his plan.
但是要起兵，绝对不能在耶路撒冷。
But we can see that he cannot have all of these people gather in Jerusalem.
因为耶路撒冷是他父亲大卫的大本营，是他父亲势力最强大的地方。
Because in Jerusalem is where King David has the most people.
所以他必须要换地方，他要到希伯伦，在那里高立作王。
So he must go to Hebron to gather the people.
但是在这里，他用什么理由，找的什么借口？他说：“我向神许愿，所以我必须要去希伯伦还愿。”
But what was the excuse that Absalom gave to his own father is that he needs to go to Hebron to pay a vow that he made to
所
the
以我们
Lord.
看到他利用父亲，利用百姓，他同时完全不介意利用神的名字。
And so now he had not only used his father and used the people, but now he is using the name of the Lord.
所以他是一个对父亲没有孝心，对百姓没有关心，对神完全没有敬畏之心的人。
So he is not submitting to his own father, and he's taking advantage of the people, and of course he has no piety towards his.
我们看撒母耳记下第14章的25节。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 14.
撒母耳记下14章的25节。
Chapter 14, verse 25.
25节。
Verse 25.
以色列全地之中，无人像押沙龙这样俊美，得人的称赞，从脚底到头顶毫无瑕疵。26节。
Verse 26.
他的头发甚重，每到年底剪发一次，所剪下来的按王的平称一称，重200舍克勒。在这里圣经里讲到了整本圣经当中最好看、最帅的一个人啊。
Here the Bible records one of the most handsome men in all of the
圣经里
Bible.
面特别告诉我们说押沙龙极其俊美，没有人像他一样。
And it specifically records that no one was praised as much for Absalom for his good looks.
从脚底到头顶毫无瑕疵，
In that-
完美的外貌。
in that from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him.
但是当我们把14章对他的形容对比15章他的表现，
So if we were to compare how he looks in chapter 14 versus his
看到的
actions,
是一个外表极其美丽，但是内心却极度的黑暗跟污秽的一个人。
and from 14 we can see he is so beautiful on the outside, but inside he is defiled.
这也是为什么他后来失败，为什么神不与他同在，为什么最后他被吊在树上，被枪砸头。
And this is why in the end his plan had entirely failed, and that the Lord did not abide with him, and that he inevitably died from the tree.
因为一个人如果只剩下外表的美好，但是缺乏了内在实质上面的价值，到最后就是被神所厌恶。
And if you see this person who is very good looking on the outside but has no actual substance in the inside, then of course he will be abandoned by God.
所以我们今天在信仰的路上所追求的，不是外表让人称赞，像法利赛人一样。
So in our journey of life, that we should not be pursuing being good looking on the outside, just like the
我
Pharisees.
希望被人看到你多优秀，你多好啊，给你拍拍手，你真是热心。
You can't just be praised by people for saying that you are so zealous or you are so good.
因为我们今天所追求的，乃是在神面前得到神的认同。
Because what we are pursuing is the approval of the Lord.
至于人有没有看见，至于人有没有给你掌声，那个都不是非常重要的事。
And what is not important is the applause or the praise of other people.
所要做的就是在神面前是个美丽的人。
And what we ought to do is to pursue being beautiful in the eyes of the Lord.
所以押沙龙的美只有美在外在。
And so the good aspects of Absalom is only on the
但
outside.
是在神的眼中，他却是一个极度丑陋的一个人。
But on the inside, to the Lord, Absalom is ugly.
我们再来看下一个人物。
Let's look at the next person.
我们请翻到撒母耳记下的15章。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 15.
15章的第12节。
Chapter 15, verse 12.
15章的第12节。
Chapter 15, verse 12.
押沙龙献祭的时候，打发人去将大卫的谋士基罗人亚希多弗从他本城请了来。于是叛逆的事块甚大，因为随从押沙龙的人民日渐增多。这里讲到有一个很重要的人选择跟随押沙龙。
The Bible records a very important counselor of David, Ahithophel.
这里讲说他叫做亚希多弗，是大卫的谋士，他是大卫的好朋友。
And so is Ahithophel, and he is David's counselor, a good friend of his.
我们看到说这个谋士有多重要，这个谋士影响力有多大。
And so we can see how important or how big of an impact this one person had.
因为你看12节，他说亚希多弗来了，于是事派甚大，日渐增多，都是来跟随叛乱。
So we can see that when Ahithophel had arrived, the conspiracy grew strong, and the people with Absalom continually increased.
我们来看撒母耳记下的第16章。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 16.
16章的23节。
Chapter 16, verse 23.
23节。
Verse 23.
那时亚希多弗所出的主意，好像人问神的话一样。他昔日给大卫，今日给押沙龙所出的主意，都是这样。你看圣经对亚希多弗这个人，他的评价到底有多高？
We can see the Bible had given Ahithophel much of praise.
他告诉我们说，亚希多弗他聪明到他所说的话，他给的建议，好像人在求问神。
And Ahithophel is mentioned to be as if one had inquired at the oracle of God.
所以这样的一个聪明的人，这样的一个有才智的人，这样的一个跟随大卫的好朋友，他却跟随了押沙龙一同叛变。
So this person who was of high status and was extremely smart had left David's side and had went to
为什么
Absalom.
为什么亚希多弗这么聪明的人会选择跟随押沙龙呢？
Then why would Ahithophel, this seemingly smart person, go with Absalom?
实际上的原因，圣经没有告诉我们，我们其实并不知道。
The reason isn't explicitly mentioned in the Bible, and we
有
will
一个
not
可
know.
能这个亚希多弗是那个拔示巴的祖父他是他的那个 Bathsheba 的 grandfather
And so Ahithophel could be the Bathsheba's grandfather.
他是亚希多弗他是
He is the grandfather of Bathsheba.
所以拔示巴的先生乌利亚 Uriah 被大卫害死，家庭破碎，孙女被大卫抢走。
And because of David, Uriah, the original husband of Bathsheba, he was killed, and then his entire family was split apart.
是不是因为这件事情让这个亚希多弗没有办法忍受，没有办法接受？
And this is something that Ahithophel could not take anymore.
或者是他觉得大卫做这种事情已经没有资格继续做以色列的王，也有可能。
Or could it be that Ahithophel already saw David as not a rightful ruler for Israel?
所以亚希多弗可能是出于愤怒，要为女儿报仇。
And maybe it could be that Ahithophel was full of wrath and he wanted to avenge the woman.
也有可能从他的立场，他觉得大卫已经不配为人君，不配做以色列的君王。
But maybe according to his own reason, he could already see that David was not a worthy king of Israel.
当然还有一个可能，因为押沙龙看起来他的事态就是看起来他要当王了，看起来比大卫有 potential， 有那个投资那个 investment 的 potential 啊。
And maybe it could be that Ahithophel saw that Absalom had a bigger dedication or has more potential to become king.
因为这里讲说他是一个非常非常聪明的人，他一判断说，大卫要失败了，押沙龙才是接下来的王。
We can see that the Bible records that Ahithophel as an extremely smart man, and that maybe he could see that King David was about to fail,
因
and
为很多时
Absalom
候
is the
对
rightful
我们
king.
来说我们对大卫有一种特殊的情结，我们都觉得说大卫一定会赢。
Maybe in our perspective, after reading the Bible, we can see that King David, he must win.
但是圣经所说，在那个时候，以色列百姓的心不是向着大卫，是向着押沙龙的。
But at that time, the hearts of Israel were not towards David, but towards Absalom.
所以跟随押沙龙的人甚多，百姓的心都归了他。
And so all the people who were supporting Absalom were overtaking the people
押
that
沙龙
supported
看起
David.
来年轻，而且长得又是超级帅。
Absalom was young and he was extremely handsome.
所以很多百姓觉得说，或许现在是时代，让新的、年轻的、更有能力的王出来。大卫的时代已经过去了。
So of course the people will think that the time of David has now passed and Absalom must overtake David.
没办法，大卫你老了，你没有你儿子长得好看啊。
They might say, oh, David, you have grown old and you're not as good looking as Absalom.
所以从那时候以人的眼光，以聪明人的判断来讲，投资押沙龙才是正确的方向。
From the knowledge of man, one might think that it's logical to support Absalom over David.
所以为什么亚希多弗这个聪明人在这个时候选择跟随押沙龙？
And this could possibly be why Ahithophel had now left David's side and is
实际
supporting
上的
Absalom.
原因我们并不是非常清楚。
But the true reason, it's not explicitly said, and we do
但
not know.
是押沙龙他可以为他的人生做选择，他可以选择自己要跟随的人，这个是他的自由。
And so Absalom, he can choose whether or not he wants to follow certain people.
但是我们要看一件事啊。
But we must look at one thing.
我们来看撒母耳记下
Let's look at 2 Samuel.
我们来看撒母耳记下的第16章的20节。
Chapter 16, verse 20.
撒母耳记下16章的20节。
Chapter 16, verse 20.
20节说，押沙龙对亚希多弗说：“你出个主意，我们当怎样行才好？”21节，
Verse 21.
亚希多弗对押沙龙说：“你父所留下看守宫殿的妃兵，你可以与他们亲近。以色列人听见你父亲憎恶你，凡归顺你人的手就要坚强。”22节
Verse 22.
于是人为押沙龙在宫殿的平顶上支搭帐篷，押沙龙在以色列众人面前与他的妃兵亲近。在这里是亚希多弗给押沙龙出的主意呀。
And so this is the advice that Ahithophel had given to Absalom.
就是在大家的面前与你父亲的妃兵亲近，这样子大家就知道你跟你父亲已经没有和解的机会了。
He told him to go into his father's concubines before all of Israel and to show that his relationship with his father is no longer there.
这是一个非常狠毒而且非常聪明的计谋。
And so this is a very hateful thing
让
to do.
所有跟随押沙龙的人都没有退路，没有办法离开，没有办法反悔的。
And so now it's to show the people who are following Absalom that they have no way back.
可是亚希多弗在献这个计谋的时候， 他有没有考虑过那些嫔妃的感受跟下场？没有的。
But when Ahithophel was making this plan, did he think about the concubines' thoughts or their feelings?
因为这个计谋很厉害，但是非常狠毒。
But because this plan was very impressive, but
他
it's very hateful.
什么都想到了，什么都算好了，就是没有想到那些无辜受害之人他们的可怜，他不在乎的。
Because this is very calculated, and he has already accounted for everything. But did he not account for the feelings of the concubines?
亚西多弗自己的孙女就是被大卫夺走的，不是吗？难道他不痛苦吗？
And his own granddaughter is someone that David had left as well. Did he not think about that?
那为什么今天你可以很轻松的把这样的痛苦再加在其他的无辜人身上呢？
How are you able to so casually bring upon this much pain upon other people?
所以当一个人所在意的只是我要成就，但是我可以不择手段。
And so you can see this mentality is that he's able to do anything to get what he wants.
那到最后就是他手里所做的功，跟他所设的计谋，必会被神所破坏，被神所厌弃。
And this is something that the Lord has, that the Lord will destroy and the Lord will hate.
我们来看雅各书的第2章。
Let's look at James.
雅各书的第2章。
James chapter 2.
雅各书第2章的第13节。
James chapter 2 verse 13.
雅各书的第2章第13节。
James chapter 2 verse 13.
因为那不怜悯人的，也要受无怜悯的审判。怜悯原是向审判夸胜，请念。
Verse 13, for judgment is without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over
那主
judgment.
耶稣告诉我们说，你用什么量器量给人，神就用什么量器量给你。
Jesus has told us that whatever mercy is given to other people will be bestowed onto
雅各
us.
书说，你有怜悯，神就怜悯你；你没有怜悯，你就要接受那个没有怜悯的下场。
And James has mentioned that judgment without mercy is the one who's shown no mercy.
那所以不管亚西多弗是对大卫自己的好朋友、自己的 master、自己的主人。
And so Ahithophel had treated this to his own master, his own best friend.
或者是对这些无辜被牵扯进去的嫔妃，他都没有任何的慈悲怜悯的心。
And he had no mercy on his own master, but he also did not have any mercy on on the concubines.
或许他觉得我报复，所以我做什么都是有理的，
And he might think that everything that I do has reason to it.
却没有看到说，当他要报复大卫的残忍，他却变成一个比大卫更残忍的人。
And he might be thinking that he is avenging what David had done, but he has inevitably become even worse than David.
所以在第16章告诉我们呢、
And so in
在第17章23节告诉我们。
And so in 2 Samuel chapter 17 verse 23, it mentions,
17章的23节。
17 verse
说
23.
亚西多弗见不依从他的计谋，就背上驴回归本城，到了家留下遗言，便吊死了，葬在他父亲的坟墓里。所以亚西多弗其实在一开始没多久，他就决定把自己去吊死了。
So before everything even started, he had put his household in order and he had hung himself.
其实这也是一个聪明人的悲哀啊。
And so this is often a case for those who are so
如果他没有
knowledgeable.
那么聪明，可能看不到将来，可能还可以说再来拼一下，再来打一仗，说不定就打赢了呢。
Somebody who might not be as knowledgeable might think, oh, we have another shot, let's try again.
但是亚西多弗其实在这个时候已经看到接下来自己跟押沙龙的结局，说输定了，死定了，赶快回家上吊比较快。
And so Ahithophel, with his own knowledge, might think that he has already lost, and because of that, he has surrendered, and then he had hung himself.
所以这是神所给他的结局。最聪明的人准备要来展开新的事业，跟随新的国王，结果还没开始就上吊死了。
And this is the man who has decided to follow this new king, and because of that, and before he even started, he had hung himself.
所以我们看到在押沙龙这边的这两个人，
And we can see the two people beside Absalom.
一个最美丽的人，但是里面有最污秽、最丑陋的内在。
We have Absalom who is so beautiful on the outside, but inside he is defiled and ugly.
一个最聪明的人，但是圣经里面给他一个最愚蠢的死亡。
And this person who is beside Absalom, who is so knowledgeable and so wise, but he has given one of the worst deaths.
正是准备开始啊，兴冲冲的，我要开始我人生的新事业。结果讲完没多久，算了，回去吊死好了。
And he was so hopeful, and he wanted to create this new kingdom and this new life. But before that even started, he had hung himself.
因为这最美的人跟最聪明的人都是神所讨厌的人。
Because those who are the most beautiful or see themselves as the most smart are those that the Lord despises.
我们来看一下，那大卫的这一边呢？
So then let's look at from David's side.
大卫逃走，大卫逃亡，大卫原本应该看起来已经失败了。
And so King David had escaped, and that he had fled, and from the eyes of men, he had been defeated.
但是为什么神又重新给他机会，使他重新回来，再得荣耀，再得国度呢？
But why is it that the Lord had given him another chance to rule this kingdom and
我
given
们
this
来
glory?
看撒母耳记下15章的第18节。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 18.
18节。
Verse 18.
王的臣仆都在他面前过去，基利提人、比利提人，就是从加特跟随王来的600人，也都在他面前过去。第19节。
Verse
19节，
19.
王对加特人以太说：“你是外邦逃来的人，为什么与我们同去呢？你可以回去与新王同在，或者回你本地去吧。”20节。
Verse 20.
你来的日子不多，我今日怎好叫你与我们一同漂流，没有一定的住处呢？你不如带你的弟兄回去吧。愿神用慈爱、诚实待你。21节。
Verse 21.
以太对王说：“我指着永生的神起誓，敢在王面前起誓，无论生死，王在哪里，仆人也必在那里。”好，所以在这里我们看到跟随大卫的人当中有一个叫做以太。
So we can see here is recorded this person beside David named
我
Ittai.
们这里发现，当这个以色列人叛乱、大卫逃亡的时候，他身旁跟随、保护他的都不是以色列人哦，都不是。
And so while David was fleeing from all of Israel, the people who were beside him and supporting him are not Israelites.
18节里面讲到的基利提人、比利提人，他们都不是以色列人哦。
And verse 18 mentions the Cherethites and the Pelethites who are not Israelites.
19节这里讲的加特人就是非利士人啊。
And verse 19 mentions Ittai the Gittite, who is a Philistine.
所以我们发现说，在大卫逃难最落魄、众人背弃要杀他的时候，跟随他在旁边的都是外邦人。
And so King David, when he was fleeing from being killed, and when he was all alone, all the people that were supporting him are actually
为什
Gentiles.
么这些人要跟随大卫？
So why are these people choosing to side with
你
David?
说这些基利提人、比利提人、加特人这些外族人，他们为什么会跑来跟随大卫？
Why would the Cherethites, the Pelethites, and all of the Gittites choose to support David?
因为这些不是以色列人的军队哦，这些都不是哦。
Because all of these people are not Israelites.
如果照现在来讲，他们就是雇佣兵 （mercenary）。
And from today's standards, they are considered mercenaries.
所以他们是特种部队 （mercenary） 雇佣兵，雇来跟随保护大卫的。
And so why are all of these mercenaries choosing to protect David?
他们投资在大卫身上，就是希望能够从大卫这里得到回报，能够将来得到好处，不是吗？
Is it that they want to receive some sort of good boon in the end when David gets his power back?
但是在这个时候，是大卫失去一切，国家被人抢走，百姓跟随新王，大卫一无所有的时候。
But this is the time where King David had nothing, where his kingdom was taken away from him and no one supported him.
但是我们却看到说，以这个加特人以太为代表，他们对大卫却是不离不弃。
And so for Ittai the Gittite, he did not care.
所以这些人他们没有离开，不离开的。
So they did not want to leave David.
你要想说，现在大卫剩多少人？600人。
And all that was left beside David's side was 600
没有
people.
人大家都跑掉了，没有人跟随他。
No one was choosing to side with or support David.
但是在这个最糟糕的时候，我们却看到最忠心的人跟在大卫的身边。
But in this time where when his lowest point, we can see the most faithful people next to David.
我们有一句话叫做"路遥知马力，日久见人心"，就是在这个最糟糕的状况，你才看得出来一个人是不是真心的在对你。
And there's a saying that basically means that if you're in the lowest point of your life, then you can really tell who are the truest of friends.
或者我们也可以讲说，就是在那个最困难的时候，才看得出你这个人信心到底是有多么的坚固。
And then we can also see if you're in the most difficult situation, it's to test whether or not this person is faithful.
就像保罗在哥林多前书告诉我们啊，
Just like how Paul mentions in 1
他
Corinthians.
说有些人的信心有些人的信心是用金银宝石所建造的。
And some of the people's faith are made out of silver or gold.
有些人是用草木禾秸那个哥林多前书第3章啊。
1 Corinthians chapter 3, it's like
我们看哥林多前书的3章第12节啊。
1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12.
12节。说
1
若有人
Corinthians
用
chapter 12.
金银宝石、草木禾秸，在这根基上建造13节，
Verse 13.
个人的工程必要显露，因为那日子要将它表明出来，有火发现，这火要试验个人的工程怎样精炼。
Verse 12, now if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw. Verse 13, each one's work will become clear, for the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire, for the fire will test each one's work of what sort it is.
所以在大卫逃难、最落魄、失去所有的时候，
And so in the time where King David had fled from, he had
其
fled.
实也是让人看到他身旁跟随他的勇士对他的真心跟对他的态度。
He's able to see those who are the most faithful to him or those who believe in him the most.
通常平常的时候平常的时候我们要赞美神、感谢神，顺利的时候归荣耀给神，其实它并不困难的。
And so we can see that in times where we are flourishing, we praise
你的
God.
生活很稳定，你的身体很健康，你祷告要什么神都给你，这个你要赞美神。讲实话，谁不会啊？
And so if our life is going well and we are healthy or our job is doing well, then of course we will praise God as anybody would do.
但是当你今天遇到困难，当你今天遇到患难，当你今天遇到病痛呢？
But what happens if we were to encounter difficulty or tribulation or any sort of illness?
当你向神祷告呼求，但是你没有听到他的回应，你没有得到他的答案呢？
But if we were to pray so bitterly before God and we don't hear any sort of response, then how are we supposed to
如
respond?
同约伯莫名其妙突然遭灾，他也不知道到底为什么他这么受苦。
If we look at Job and how he had all of a sudden been given all of these difficulties, how is he
我
supposed
们
to
能不
react?
能在这种最痛苦的时候，像约伯一样，俯伏下拜说：赏赐出于神，收取出于神，神是应当被称颂的。
And are we able to be like Job, who is able to humbly go before God and say whatever God has given, and He will also take?
所以在这里，在大卫人生最低潮的时候，却看到这个加特人以太对他的真心跟忠心啊。
So in the time of difficulty, in the lowest point of David's life, he's able to see the faithfulness of Ittai the
但是为
Gittite.
什么以太会对他忠心？为什么这些600人会跟随他？
But why is it that Ittai the Gittite will be so faithful, or these 600 people will support David?
其实你看，大卫对这个加特人以太所说的话，
So let us look at what David says to the
说你不要
Ittai the
跟
Gittite.
我现在什么都没有，跟着我你会吃亏，你去找新的王。
He tells him, "Why are you following me? I have nothing, and go find some other king to
我
follow."
们不要忘记了，这个时候是大卫人生最低潮的时候。
And let's remember that this is the lowest point of King David's life.
他的敌人强大他的敌人强大，他其实没有剩下多少。
All of his enemies are so great and so strong, and he has not left with anything.
理论上来讲，这个时候大卫应该这个好像溺水的人什么都抓人都抓到手上的，通通都是我的。
And if we were to look at this logically, King David, anybody can take anything from David.
一定是想办法，以太，你跟着我，我以后如果我夺回王位，我给你什么给你什么。人都是很自私，人都是希望身旁帮助跟随的人越多越好，不是吗？
And so King David, if you were to logically think about it, he would promise Ittai the Gittite anything, but as people are very selfish and will promise anything to gain supporters.
至于我到底打不打得赢，以太你会不会死在战场上，那关我什么事啊？
And-
有人在我身边，先有帮忙，先骗来再说人都是这样的。
And people might even first deceive people so they can gain any sort of supporters while not even caring about others.
我们却看到大卫对这加特人以太却不是这样，不利用人， 他不利用以太，他把事情讲得很清楚，而且他让以太说：“你去，为了你更好，你去愿神祝福你。”
But we can see that King David was very different from that, in that he had told Ittai very clearly that he did not have anything and that he wanted the best for him.
其实你看到这一段，你想到谁？
So if you were to think about this, what King
你
David
看
said,
到
what
这
would
一
you think
段，你
about?
要想到路德记里的拿俄米。
We can think about Naomi in the book of Ruth.
拿俄米在一无所有的时候，告诉他的2个媳妇说：“你们回家，回家，再去成立你的家庭。愿神祝福你，不要跟我，我什么都没有了。”
And Naomi had told his 2 daughters-in-law to return back to their own home, and may the Lord bless them.
因为不自私，因为替人着想，所以神使他由苦再变成甜。
And because they were not selfish and they cared about other people and their well-being, the Lord had turned their bitterness into something very
所以在
sweet.
大卫这一边，我们看到什么？
So from the perspective of David, what are we to see?
我们看到一个卑微流离失所的大卫，仍然在为他身旁的人做最大的关心。
So we can see this King David, who is so pitiful, still care about those who are supporting him and those who are
我们看
beside
到
him.
从外国来逃难到大卫身边的以太，对大卫忠心耿耿，绝不离开，不求好处。
And then we can also see those who were Gentiles, Ittai, still be so faithful towards David.
不管是大卫的爱心，或是以太的忠心，都是让神喜悦、让神感动的好品德。
And whether it be Ittai and his continual faithfulness to David, or David and his continual care for Ittai, this is something that God approves of.
我们再看到撒母耳记下的15章的第24节。
Let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse
撒
24.
母耳记下的15章24节。
Chapter 15, verse 24.
24节。
Verse 24.
这里说撒督和抬神约柜的利未人也一同来了，将神的约柜放下，亚比亚他上去，等着众民从城里出来过去。第25节。
Verse 25.
王对撒督说：“你将神的约柜抬回城去。我若在神面前蒙恩，他必使我回来，再见约柜和他的居所。26节。
Verse 26.
倘若他说我不喜悦你，看哪，我在这里，愿他凭自己的旨意待我。”这一段非常非常的重要。
So this passage is extremely important.
大卫要逃跑从这个他儿子押沙龙的刀下逃亡。
And so we see that David wants to flee from the sword of his son.
因为大卫是神的受膏者，
But because he is the anointed one of God,
所以押沙龙是叛变的叛徒。
and so we can see that Absalom had committed treason against
所以
his
对祭司来说，他们不认可押沙龙的地位。
So in the perspective of the priest, they do not recognize Absalom as the king.
所以大卫逃亡，祭司扛着约柜就跟着跑。
So when King David had fled, then the priest likewise took the ark and fled
因为
with
大卫是
David,
神的受膏者啊，
because that is the anointed one.
所以他们不承认押沙龙，不承认新王。
And then they do not recognize Absalom as this new king.
但是在这里，大卫却对祭司说了一句非常重要的话。
But then we see here that King David says something very important to the
他
priest.
说：“请你把约柜再抬回耶路撒冷。”
He tells them to carry the ark of God back into the city.
说神如果要让我回来，我就会再看到约柜。
If he does find favor in the eyes of the Lord, then he will bring him back.
在人的眼中，这是一个非常非常愚蠢的决定啊！
And so this is a very important decision a person can make.
我们不要忘记了，以色列是个宗教民族，
Let us not forget that the Israelites are a religious
而约
nation.
柜就代表神所同在，代表正统。
So the ark represents what the Lord abides with.
在这个时候的大卫，他其实非常的缺乏，他什么都缺啊，因为他什么都没有啊。
And at this point of his life, King David is lacking in everything.
他应该要抓住以太，你不要走，你跟着我，我们一起打押沙龙。
He likewise should be grabbing hold of Ittai, saying, "Let us all work together to defeat my son."
他应该要抓着约柜，抓着祭司说：“你们跟我走，我们是正统百姓，看到约柜在我这，他们就会心回转归向我。”
And likewise, King David should have taken a hold of Zadok, and he had taken hold of the ark and say, well, now we have the ark on our side. Of course, the Israelites will follow me now.
如果今天是我们，如果今天是普通人，难道这种不是我们的计算吗？
Isn't this not the typical plan of action for all of us? If we have the ark on our side, then those who value their faith, those who value this religion, then they will follow.
但是大卫知道的非常清楚，
But then King David knew
他
very
知道说约
specifically
柜从来不是属于他的，
that the ark was never his.
他是以色列的人，他是以色列的王，他是神的受膏者，
He is an Israelite, and he's the Israelites' king, and he is
但
the
是他
anointed.
从来不是约柜的主人。
But he is not the owner of the ark.
所以对他来讲，他没有资格带着约柜，或者是利用约柜来成为他的武器，成为他就是约柜不是他的帮手啊。
He has no right to take the ark to be his own weapon or his own help.
所以有多少时候我们把神，或者是我们把神当作我的助手，所以神要替我，神要帮我做什么？
So have we ever experienced this where we take God and we make him our helper and we make him almost like a tool for us?
但是你看大卫从来没有觉得约柜是属于他，也没有觉得自己有资格带着约柜逃跑。
But we can see King David never took the ark of God to use, or he did not have the status to just take.
因为对大卫来讲，他是敬畏神的。
Because for David, he respects and
大卫觉得我今天落到这种境况，是我所犯的错，我在付出代价。
and that King David knew that whatever he encounters is because of his own actions and that he is paying the cost.
但是我没有资格滥用神的约柜来得到我个人的好处。
But he has no right to take the ark as for his own advantage, and so he could win.
所以这个也是今天我们要放在心中要记住的。
And so this is something that we must put into our heart and
我们是
remember.
教会的工人，我们是神家的仆人。
We are the workers of the church, and we are the servants of God.
千万不要搞错了，千万不要打着神的名义，打着教会的名字来觉得自己能够做什么能够去去辖制别人呐。
So we could not just take the status that we have in this church or the work that we do just so we can be better than other people.
我们来看彼得前书哦。
Let's look at 1 Peter.
彼得前书。
1 Peter.
彼得前书的第5章
1
第
Peter
2节。
chapter 5 verse 2.
5章2节。
Chapter 5 verse 2.
这里说勿要牧养你们中间神的群羊，按照神的旨意照管他们。 不是出于勉强，乃是出于甘心；不是出于贪财，乃是出于乐意；不是要辖制所托付你们的，乃是要做群羊的榜样。请念。
Verse 2, shepherd the flock of God which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but willingly, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly. Verse 3, nor by as being lords over those who entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock.
所以我们看到，虽然约柜已经到了大卫的身边。
So we can see that the ark had already left
最聪明的做
inside
法
of
就是把
David.
约柜带走，
So the most knowledgeable action was just to take the ark,
把祭司也带走。
to take the priest as well.
但是大卫说：“你们回约路撒冷，
But King David has specifically told them to
因
go
为
back
我
to
所面
Jerusalem
对的是神要我面对的事。
because what I'm encountering is something that God has specifically planned for me
我
to
回不回得
encounter.
来，不是由约柜来决定的。”
If I do find favor in the eyes, then I will see the ark, and taking this ark is not the plan.
我能不能再回来，不是由约柜来决定。
And whether or not I'm able to return is not determined by this
你
ark.
看以利的儿子带着约柜上战场，不是一样死在那里吗？
We can see that Eli had taken the ark into the battle, and he had died there.
约柜还被抢走，神又把他带回来。
Even though the ark had been taken away by enemies, God had inevitably brought it back.
所以大卫从来不觉得我有资格带走约柜，所以他就把约柜说：“请把约柜带回耶路撒冷。”
And so King David knew that he did not have the status to just take back the ark, so he respectfully told to
诗
return
篇的
the
第
ark.
39篇，大卫说
In Psalm chapter 39, David
诗
says,
篇39篇的第9节，大卫说：“因我所遭遇的是出于你，我就默然不语啊。”
Psalm chapter 39, verse 9. Psalm chapter 39, verse 9, I was mute and I did not open my mouth because it was you who did it.
所以在这里讲说，对大卫来讲，既然是出于神，那我就接受，我就面对，然后交给神来处理。
Because King David knew that everything that has been dealt to him, he will receive because it was dealt to him by God.
所以大卫在这里做的这个选择是非常重要的。把约柜送回耶路撒冷，不抢夺神的约柜。
And this is a very important decision that King David made, which is to return the ark back to Jerusalem and not to grab hold of it.
这也是神使大卫从苦境转回，使他重得荣耀，使他再次成为君王的原因。
And this is the reason why King David had turned this bitterness into glory.
所以我们在这里做两个团体的比较啊。
And so we can see all of this example.
有一个最漂亮的人，但是他里面有最丑陋的心。
We have this person who is very handsome on the outside, but is defiled and ugly on the inside.
有一个最聪明的人，但是做的就是最愚蠢的决定。
We have this person who is the most knowledgeable and most wise, but he has done something the most unfortunate.
但是我们看到在大卫这边，我们看到的是大卫对人的爱心，还有他对神的敬畏。
But here we can also see King David's example of his love towards other people and his fear of the Lord.
所以因为表现不同，所以神最后给他们安排的结局也不一样。
And because of their reactions and their actions were different, then the outcome the Lord had already planned for all of
我们
them.
用这一段来做彼此的勉励。
May this passage be a mutual encouragement for all of
一起
you.
来唱诗162首。
Let us all sing hymn 160.